I had no fear. I didn't know what turns were coming next. I didn't have a plan. I just kept rolling. It just kept coming. So I had no choice. But I said, be fearless and go for it. I mean, and stay creative. It's so much creativity now. It's so many. Back then, the choices were slim, but I pushed myself through to find inspiration, to find motivation. Now it's right in front of you. But I say, go for it. Go for it and stay with people that believe in you. Do not get sidetracked. There's so many temptations out there. I mean, there's haters, there's temptation, and there's people that are probably jealous. You could be jealous of, you and your foresight, but you got to stay close to, listen to your gut, listen to the universe, listen to God, and surround yourself around people that want the best for you.
Welcome to the Go Go Bistro podcast, where we dish up inspiration for women who are hungry for change and ready to make it happen. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, creator, and empowerment coach who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders ride the waves of change with ease and grace. I now work with women to step into change and unleash the power they have to create a life they love. This is a space to let go of the fear and say yes to possibility. Whether you're contemplating a change in your career, relationship, health, lifestyle, or anything in between, nothing is off the table. I'll be serving up simple insights to help you manage the ups and downs of change and share my interviews with successful women who took a leap of faith to create the life they knew they were meant to live, sharing their wisdom, advice, and all the juicy lessons they've learned along the way. So join me at my favorite little two-top, pull up a chair, and let's get started. Have you ever felt so captivated by an interest or pastime that it drew you in and wouldn't let you go? Or toyed with the idea of creating something bigger out of it, only to shake your head and pass it off as just a silly or unrealistic dream? Life can take us on a pretty wild ride when we surrender to that persistent little tug, even when the outside world may be pointing us in a different direction. The story we're about to hear is all about the hidden treasures that lay beyond that simple decision to lay down conventional wisdom and follow your heart. In the late 80s, Kai Chase began her career as a staff writer for a weekly music industry publication called The Urban Network, interviewing the top music and radio talent of the time. She then segued into music publishing as her career continued to rise. But all the while, her true desire was revealing itself when she would literally fall asleep reading The Joy of Cooking and spent her leisure hours dreaming up healthy and creative dishes that mimicked the comforting standard recipes she enjoyed as a child. She went on to receive her professional culinary training from the famed Le Cordon Bleu Academy in Paris, and in addition to having served as a private chef to A-lister celebrities, she has worked at a number of well-known restaurants, including Pamela Anderson's Sanctuary and Wolfgang Puck Catering and Events. She is now known for her modern and contemporary approach to new American cuisine. In today's episode, Kai shares with us the twists and turns she has taken to follow her dream of becoming a celebrity chef and beyond, as she continues to build an expansive culinary and lifestyle brand. Kai, we are so excited to have you here. Welcome to Go Go Bistro.
Hello, how are you?
Well, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it is such a pleasure to have you here. And I know that there's a lot to talk about. So I wanted to kind of dive in and just ask you a little bit about the beginning of your journey, or maybe it's a little bit further into your journey, but the beginning of your career. And now, did you grow up in LA?
I am a California girl, LA native. I come from a family of artists and entertainers. So my nationality is Creole, Cuban, American Indian, and part Irish. So I have a lot of those different backgrounds. I came to the United States in New Orleans and New York. And then when it came to me, I was born and raised in sunny California, Los Angeles.
I know that it was in 88 that you became a staff writer, or was that when you became a staff writer in the music industry in LA, or was that a little bit earlier than then?
Yeah, I went to Fairfax High School, and Fairfax High School, well, let me just back it up a little bit. Before I lived in that area, the West Hollywood, Beverly Hills area, I grew up in Watts, over by the Watts Tower. And that is not Compton, that is called South Central. So I was very young. My mom was a go-go dancer and a struggling actress. And what she wanted to do was, she was like, got to get my kids up out of this area. married my stepdad, and then moved us to the West Side. Huge jump. My mother started working for Red Fox, the comedian. And that's what moved us, got us that big jump out of that area from poverty to, upper middle class. That's right before the Beverly Center was there. This was in the 70s. So I was privileged to go to really good schools because in the area I lived, it was a mostly predominantly Jewish area and very international, Hungarians, Pakistanians, Jewish. And those were the kids and my best friends I grew up with, and kind of learned how to make different foods and different dishes that way. But I was able to go to great schools, and the school I went to was Fairfax High School. Graduating from Fairfax, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea. I just know I came from a family of entertainers, and I could pick and choose, whatever I wanted to do at the time. So did I want to be a singer? No. Did I want to be an actress? Sure. I had some, I did. I had some of those, play production and drama classes at Fairfax High. But I needed to find my art. And my art wasn't any of those that I was that passionate about. So in 1988, my cousin, J.J. Johnson, who was a music director and DJ for K-Day Radio, which they were AM at the time, not FM, he told me about a magazine that was hiring called the Urban Network. And they were the sister publication to the Album Network and the Network 40. The Album Network did rock charts. The other network, they were the pop charts. And Urban was the hip hop, black music, R&B. That was all brand new. And that's how you charted radio, records, back then by hand. No swiping, none of that stuff. So anyway, I got the job there as a receptionist in 1988. And we were just building the company out. God, I had just graduated. So I graduated in 85. I was 17, 18. I was 20. I was 20 when I started working for Urban Network, and I became a staff writer, and I assisted with the urban charts, the top 100 charts, the, album charts. And what we would do, we would track radio. We'd call radio stations from around the country, and we get their heavy rotation, medium, and light rotation playlists of how they were playing their records. And that's what formed the charts that you would see in, the trade magazines of old. So yeah, I started in 88 that way. And then I moved myself up to interviewing celebrities, musicians, R&B groups, producers, owners of radio stations, Kathy Hughes, and all those great folks. So program directors, music directors. And that was how I got my foot in the music industry. And I worked there for about 7 years.
And that sounds like such a dream job at that age. I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, it was so much fun. Oh my God, all the parties and getting to, you got all the demo albums, I mean, I had every CD, 600 CDs because there were demos, there were promos, and you'd have to listen to the song to review and interview somebody. So you got a lot of perks.
Yes.
At a young age, you're very fearless. You're fearless, you're driven, and you think this is the dream job.
And did you? Did you feel like it was a dream job?
It was. It was. I started doing that. Then, the company gave me another gig where I was putting compilation CDs together. So I did sales for the magazine as well. And they were called the Urban Jams. So I would call the different record companies, the promotion guys, and okay, who's the new artist that you guys are promoting and putting most of your money into? Let's put them on this compilation CD. They go out with the magazine once a month, and that would go to radio. Those compilation CDs would go to radio stations. So that was really great. And it was a great job. Got a chance to go to all of the conventions. How can I be down convention, Jack the Rapper convention in Atlanta. And it was just a great job.
Yeah.
I think what happened with me is that wasn't my passion. I thought it was for 7 years. And I can be very honest with you. I just got very... the politics of the music business is what turned me off. And as you get into it and you start doing sales and advertising and writing, you start noticing that. And as you get older, it's like you're not the artist anymore. Now it's a political game. And I'm an artist, and I needed to find that artistry in me.
I know that we're going to go into kind of this shift that you made, but did you have a passion for other things? Like, was there... I know cooking obviously is one of them, but did you have other creative passions side by side with that? Was it just that cooking was something that you had been doing had you been cooking since you were a little kid?
Well, my mother, like I had mentioned, my mother worked for Red Fox, and she was just superwoman.
Yeah.
She would go to work. Red Fox had his production company on La Brea, Red Fox Productions. And she went on the road with Red. Red was always on tour, so always in Las Vegas. So sometimes when she'd come home, she would cook. My mother would cook, and I don't know how she did it. She'd go to work, pick us up from school. She would cook from, I'm telling you, one night it'd be Japanese. She would dress up like a Japanese geisha.
I love that.
And she'd have the chopsticks in her hair and the kimono on, and she'd do tempura, and she would do, sukiyaki. And I'm telling you, as a child, my brother and I would just watch this. It would be showtime, or it would be Chinese or Mexican, or we would be ordering from, a Pakistani restaurant. So the kitchen in the house was always the busiest in my household, and my mother would, in order to get into that whole cooking vibe, which is something I still do, we'd always play music. And the music would be loud on an old hi-fi stereo, and she'd have the doors open. We had 3 Great Danes that walked throughout the house. My parents were old, they were older hippies. So, this is how this was. But it would be Led Zeppelin or Rod Stewart or, Roar. And it would be something loud and just rhythmic so that she could get into that muse of let's cook. So as a child growing up, I would be her sous chef. I just loved, my favorite things are condiments, so, you have your proteins and you have your veggies, but in the refrigerator and the cabinets, every little condiment, your gherkins and your capers and your, miso mayos or your pestos, and everything was always something international in the household kitchen cupboards that led me to get very, very excited and involved in the whole cooking aspect. I like to see the colors of the jars and the labeling. I read the labels, and, my mother said, no MSG and no salt and salt-free this and salt. So, as a kid, I'm her sous chef. It's always go to the cabinet and hand me the pesto or the roasted red pepper paste or something I'm about to create. So I watched my mother, who wasn't a chef. She just loved to make the family happy. And my mother was very, very flamboyant. So it was a big deal in the kitchen. I think that's where I got my passion for cooking at such a very young age.
Well, and your mom sounds like a hoot. She sounds like she was a ton of fun to be around.
Tons of fun. Tons of fun. So, we grew up, my brother and I grew up that way. It was always colors, and you always have to grow up instead of saying, oh, that doesn't, I don't want to taste that. That was never an option. Because how do you know if you don't like it? If you like it, if you never tried it.
Well, and it feels like your kitchen was kind of a place of creativity. Like I come from a very Irish background where my mother was an Irish cook, which meant she didn't cook a lot. When I was in my 20s and I was had a kitchen of my own, I was totally unfamiliar with it. It sounds like with you, it's like the kitchen was the gathering place. It was the place to come together. It was a place for fun and family.
It was. It was because it was an open kitchen with the family room.
Yeah.
So you'd have that hi-fi there and the piano, and there's a tambourines and drums. And it was just a music room, with the TV and the hi-fi and everything we had on and select TV back then. It was just so, those are the cables. So I'm telling you my age, and then it flowed into the dining room, which flowed into the kitchen. It was all one space. So that was always the room where you'd hear the music, and she'd turn the LP over and put the needle on and go back into the kitchen, and we would still create. And not only was it just, very international flair of foods, but in the neighborhood I grew up in, it was an international influence of children that were my friends that I went to school with that were always invited to come over and have dinner. And that I would go to their homes too. And that's how, a lot of my, influential diversity of cooking began growing up in that area in the 70s.
But what a great era. That's a great era, especially music. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah.
That's the place to be. So you're in the music industry, Had you had this calling before? Was it like the cooking bug, maybe I'm minimizing it too much, but you had that itch. Was it something that you had all along that just started to kind of persist, or were you like, wow, this is interesting, I'm really getting into the joy of cooking? Or
It was in me the whole time, and it never manifested when I was younger.
right. Yeah.
Because in high school, I was in play production and I was in drama classes, so I was, with all my friends, we were trying to be thespians and all these,
Yes,
so, so that was that. And then I thought I could sing, and, I was trying to find my artistry. But it was there, but it wasn't showing itself yet. It just wasn't. But I'd come home and play with my mom in the kitchen. I'd be the sous chef, but I wasn't recognizing it. I did not recognize it till it screamed at me 7 years later in a field that I just knew would be easy to get into because it was nepotism, how I got into the field of the music field. But my artistry did not come out until I think I was 17, 18, something like that. Yeah, 17, 18 in the kitchen. And then it really flourished within those years of me working at Urban Network because, it got to a point where I was working at the magazine and I sometimes, you're young and you get frustrated. You want to do something else. You want to get out there and show the world that who you are. And I was putting myself to sleep, literally reading The Joy of Cooking, that old cook, because that was all that there was.
My mom had that. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. You and I are roughly around the same age too, by the way, guys. So don't worry about it. I totally know what you're saying. Yes.
And that is not something you read. There are no stories in that book. There's nothing but recipes. That's a cookbook. That's a real cookbook. Now, these days, there's, chefs have memoirs where they have recipes in their memoirs and they're telling stories. It's storytelling books. But that was a true to heart cookbook, like a Julia Child, where you have your bread section, your egg section, your meat section, and I'm reading this every night to go to bed.
Well, it was putting you well to sleep then.
It did. And in my mind, it soothed something in me like, this feels good. This really feels good. So, from time to time, I don't know how that happened, but 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I found myself getting up making a cheesecake. But this is as I'm walking out of Urban Network. This is how I'm manifesting myself to, I got to go. This is not where I want to be. I want to be right here in this food game. And the food game back then in the early 90s, there was no Food Network. There was nothing. And there was a male-dominated field, truly. I said, this is what I'm doing. And I took my first leap of faith and I quit Urban Network. I walked into my boss's office and I said, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. I never had any place to go. I never had another job set up. That was my first leap of faith. I have 3. I'll tell you the other 2 as we keep talking, but that was my first one. And I didn't have any place to go, but I had faith in God that this is what I was going to do. And this is my passion, my purpose, and I'm just going to go for it. So I enrolled myself in culinary school with my money that I saved from working at Urban Network. And I went to this little small college called Epicurean, and it was in West Hollywood. And while I was there, I had quit that job. So I got another job publishing, Chrysalis Music Publishing. And I was working for the vice president of the Black Music Division. I was working for her there. I signed my uncle Roy Ayers to a publishing admin deal there, which got me a little more money. So I was burning the candle at both ends. I stayed at that job maybe 2 years, but I was going to school on off days working, and I had to do an externship in order to graduate Epicurean. And that's when I started working at Pamela Anderson's Sanctuary. I got that job because a friend of mine that I happened to go to Fairfax High School was one of the executive chefs.
Oh my God, I love it.
Mitchell Schwartz. And he saw me. He was like, what are you doing? Oh my God, I'm the executive chef. I said, this is the hottest restaurant in this town. I mean, it was like on the Beverly Hills adjacent. It was on Robertson. And I told him I was in culinary school. I needed 60 hours of externship. He said, hey, my mom put us in a great school, got great friends, everybody's doing things. And that's how I got that connection. I worked at that restaurant for some months. I did more than 60 hours for free.
I was going to say, but what an experience that gave you, right?
Yeah, it gave me the hands-on while I was in school and while I was still working. And I think I weighed like 103 pounds. I barely slept, but I was paying my dues. I was paying my dues. Yeah.
Well, and that is like the serendipity that happens, right? Where it's like, oh, it just so happens to be somebody who went to high school. Isn't it?
Right.
How does that fall out of the sky?
Look at God. That's what I say. When
I
I took those steps in faith. That was that step in faith there. It just rolls out. It just kept rolling. I don't know where it's going. I can't stop it. I'm just rolling with it. And then after that was done, it was just time to move ahead. And I ended up, my parents were, hey, she's really serious about this. I got my externship. I graduated that little boutique college, and my parents got me some master's studies at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris, France. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was scared to death. I was like, oh my gosh. But those French classes that you take in high school kind of paid off, right? The little bit of the French that it's the hardest job when I first started, it was the hardest thing ever, but I did not stop. And I remember a female chef that I had met that worked for, she was executive chef for Christina Applegate. Christina Applegate had a restaurant in West Hollywood called Villa Kula, and it was on Santa Monica. And I met the chef there while I was in school, and it was female. And that was very exciting to me. And the first thing she said that will always stick in my head, she said, this is not a glamorous job. Looking, because there are no pretty girls. And there was just not anybody in culinary at all, but I'm going to be honest, older white men. And that's the French way. And that's just how it's always been. And it was very difficult for women to run and to control and run a kitchen because they don't take us that serious back then.
You have a stitch of French, but how do you do that? They speak English as well, I'm assuming. That would freak me out, not having any.
Oh, it did. Oh, it freaked me out. It freaked me out because I was by myself and I'm on this plane. I'm getting there, and I'm like, I'm still, I'm in my 20s, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But you put your big girl panties on and your pants on, and you put your backpack on. I stayed with the family. I had my French book to, translate English to French and French to English, and you ask a lot of questions, and you're a student. You roll with the other students, and win in Rome.
Well, and what's funny when you just said that when you're in your 20s, it's kind of like, yeah, oh gosh, I remember that. When you didn't really, consequence was like, what? I'm just going to do it. Granted, there's fear behind it, but you just walk into it. It's almost like I feel like in my 20s, I didn't know to be as fearful as like you kind of learned to get later in life about things like that. So, it was the perfect time. You just were like, okay, one foot in front of the other.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how, that happened. I stayed there for almost a year and came back. At that point, I had already quit my job at Chrysalis because there's no way I could have went to the college in Paris and still held my job. And when I told my boss that's what I was doing, and she knew I was in culinary school, and she knew I was, I said, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. She told me I could leave right then and there. She said, you don't have to give me 2 weeks. You can get out of here right now. I was like, that was my second step in faith.
Oh, yeah.
And I was scared. First of all, I'm going to another country, don't speak the language, don't have a job when I come back. And here we go.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I came back, and then what I decided to do when I came back, and this is the beauty of how all this got started, is I took every last connection that I had when I was working in the music business, from promoters to A&R guys to, DJs to record company execs that were all in my Rolodex. And I got myself some letterhead, and I wrote them all letters saying, I have moved into the culinary business if you ever need for your promotional parties, for your artists, and for music videos. And that's how I got every one of these clients. And that's how it turned into celebrity clients, because it all became word of mouth. So I flipped it and I kept those connections, and I became this caterer to the music industry, the urban music industry at the time.
Yeah.
And that was the blessing that started to pay the bills, the beginning.
And this is, you're about how old? You're mid-20s at this point?
Yeah, my mid-20s, 25, 26, something like that. Yeah.
Well, and what chutzpah you had to do that? Like to be like, okay, I'm going to write the people I know.
Yeah.
That's a networking 101, but in your mid-20s, it's not something that typically comes to you. You were using your connections.
I was using my connections. Now it's a little harder, but I mean, the connections are there, but then you're just like I said, you're fearless.
Right.
You're fearless, and you haven't burnt any bridges, and people like you, and they wonder what happened. And then, it's like, you got the publicity department, you got the promotions department, and every one of those departments are putting together promotional parties for their artists.
Oh my God, yes.
And back then it was party time. They were giving big grand parties for the release of a new album or, that kind of thing. So yeah, my company did very, very well. I started Kai Chase Catering and it did really well. We started doing music videos. We were doing album release parties. Then that segued over to TV shows, the Moesha show, this show.
Gosh, yes.
So it became always word of mouth because the food was good. The food was good. It was just everything that I wanted to be. And that's when I knew I'm in something that this is my art. It's Kai Chase. It is my art. It's my style. It's my food. It's my passion. And that's how that started. Now, the private chefing came later and it came after, 9/11 hit. Okay. And here's that third step in faith. And so 9/11 hit and we were rolling. I mean, Along Came Mary was our competition. That was another huge catering company. And she did a lot of huge events for, Fox TV and stuff. And I was trying to get to that level. But 9/11 hit and small businesses were not the thing. It was major corporations. So small businesses were out of luck. So I couldn't get on any studio lots. I couldn't get on any TV lots because they started using their own commissaries because security, so they closed down everything, no outside anything and all my stuff was entertainment. I had to sell my equipment. I didn't sell my Rolodex. I kept my contacts, but I sold all my equipment. I had my own catering facilities at the time that we had to get rid of, and I needed a job. So I took a step in faith. I said, you know what? Maybe I should contact some of these folks that I know. A girlfriend of mine that went to high school with me happened to call me. Her name was Casey Lovelace. It's so much fun. I love Casey. She said, hey, girl, I'm the personal assistant to Macy Gray. And she said, this is Macy's I Try album, that multi-million-dollar album that she had. Yeah. She said, Macy's just got this brand new house and she's on top of the world with this new album. I told her about you, that you're my friend and this, that, and the other. She doesn't need a party catered, but she's looking for a chef. I was like, get out of here. That's what started the private chefing. And then the rest is here we are right now talking to you from Jamie Foxx to Michael Jackson and everything has been word of mouth. I have never had to solicit. That's what I say. I will never lose my faith in God. I tell you.
Well, and it's so clearly your calling, right? It's kind of like you were in the flow since your mid-20s. Like you've been in it. You've been in that golden moment for years now in terms of being able to go from one to the next to the next.
Yeah. And sometimes I think I stay in it too long. Sometimes when you're used to the back of the house, you really, the front of the house because you run a business, but to segue yourself into the front of the house it's a little scary, because what is the back of the house. But That's where I'm segueing myself into now, the front of the house, meaning my spices that we've just sent out and that kind of stuff. So
now before we get to that, because that's fascinating to me as well. I love all of this. Becoming a personal chef. Are you there in the home? This is like a totally tactical question.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Are you there in the home all day? Like, are you basically like if you're making the 3 meals a day and then is it like a day job? Is it kind of?
It is. It's a full-time gig. I'm a salary employee. Right now I'm the personal chef to Kevin Hart. I've been his personal chef for 10 years. Now the first 5 years was independent. Independent contractor for him. But these last 5 years, I've been we travel with the family and, you're there Monday through Friday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, whatever they require, all their private parties, in-house, off-site. That's, you are the exec chef of that home.
And do you do catering too for them? Like, so if they have a party, do you still have your catering group or is that no longer, right? You just went right into.
No, that is too. Sometimes a client might want to do off-premise. I call it off-premise because it's not in their home or on their site of their home. It could be maybe, a lounge that they rented out. I want my chef to come in and execute X, Y, and Z, or, a staycation property or their property in another country or another state. You fly and do that. But yes, I do still have my catering company, and we do their extra, the additional or outside events for them.
Okay, but now you are venturing into, so tell us a little bit about the spice company and all that too, because I think this is really cool.
At the top of the pandemic in 2020, I decided to launch a product line. And I'm saying that because, you get older and it's just time to use your brand to do other things. So I decided to launch a spice company, which is spices now, but is growing into a line of products. But we started off with 3 spices. And like everyone else during the pandemic, people were getting very creative in their homes, Mm-hmm. So I had already had spices that I had created, like a blackening rub that I had created when I was working with Michael Jackson, that I would take from client to client. Kevin Hart, make me some blackened chicken. I'd use this rub that I had made. And it became so popular and so favorited by them that, Kevin was the main one that said, it's something about that blackening rub I love. And then it finally clicks in my head. You know what? Kai, you should do a spice line. Ding, 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 Duh, why didn't you think of this earlier?
But that's how it happens, right? It kind of comes to you at the right time.
Yeah, yes, at the right time. So I had 3, and I said, let me just start with a 3, and I looked online, I did some research to see what other chefs were doing and to see, if this was lucrative. And spices at the time were very lucrative 2 years ago. They still are because they have a longer shelf life.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
And so I created it, called it Creations by Kai, because they're my creations that came up with, and I called a company a CPG company to do my engineering for it and to get them FDA approved, get the business done the right way. So I came up with 3, and they're very uniquely bold flavors. The first one is called Warm Cajun and Chicory. It's a blackening rub. And it is a collaboration or a mixture of Cajun spices, of your smoked paprika and your oregano and your garlic and thyme and those things. But we added some really nice dark roast French coffee and New Orleans chicory to it. So that flavor is just amazing. When you open the jar, it just pops.
Yeah.
That's one of the favorites. And the other is a 5-spice habanero and ginger. That's a spice blend that goes really well with Asian food that we do, and pork and stir fries. And then I did a California citrus salt, since I am from LA, California. And I love citrus. I love anything citrus: limes, lemons, tangerines, grapefruits. I love those zests. So we blended a few of those zests together with some dried cilantro, mm-hmm. and all the other areas of the garlic and this sea salt and things, and came up with a really nice creation with the California citrus salt.
And what would that go on? Would that go like on poultry? Where would you put that?
The California citrus salt we made with we've made salad dressings with it.
Ah, okay. So it's more sweet.
It's a little more herbal with the zest. So when the dried fruits hit something that's warm or acidy, they bleed. So they open up. So we've done it with salmon. We've sprinkled it on salmon. And you've got the orange and the lemon in those zests, and they open up onto that fish. So they're really good with fish. Shrimp, we've done some grilled with the shell on, like a lemon pepper, but we put it with the California citrus salt. And we'll baste that with some butter, and we'll hot toss it in a wok so that those flavors stick to that shell.
Oh, that
sounds
amazing.
So really good. Yeah. I'm going to send you a 3-spice pack.
Oh, I would love that.
Send it.
Because I'm the Irish girl, so not a lot of spice in my life. I need more spice in my life. But Kai, okay, so here's a question I have to ask, because I would kick myself if I don't ask this. Of celebrities that you have cooked for, what comes to mind as like celebrity favorite dishes? Were there any like ones that come to mind that like you used to always cook for Michael Jackson? Are you know what I mean? Like are there favorites?
Yeah. Michael, gosh, God, that was a dark moment in my life, that whole situation, because I was in the house the day that he died.
Oh, geez. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was that girl that was on the news for about 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, with the trials and all that, because people didn't know. They were like, Well, there was someone in the house. And when they found out it was the chef, here comes the media for 3 years. But, you finally get out of, that drama and that traumatic experience.
I can imagine.
But with Michael, I would say he was such a love. He was such a love. I'm going to tell you that he was a Virgo just like me. Very generous, very kind, warm-hearted. We were getting ready for the This Is It tour.
Yes.
So I was hired to be his personal chef to go on tour. Michael didn't want any more men as chefs in his house. He wanted a woman in the house. He wanted a whole new regime of things. He wanted, he had his kids and he wanted it to be, my kids. I want a female chef and let's do this. So at the time, Michael was getting ready for the This Is It tour. So Michael ate very lean. So no beef. It was turkey and fish only. And everything was small portioned, right? But I think for Michael, he did a lot of juicing. So, his favorite thing is Michael loved Mexican, first of all. He loved Mexican food. So when we had fun night or, eat whatever you want night, Sunday dinner or whatever, It was tacos. So, and the kids loved the taco. The kids were, Blanket was 6 years old back then. So you can only imagine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he was all over the tacos.
Yeah. So that was that was 12 years ago. But Michael did a lot of juicing. So it was the beet juice, he did a lot of green drinks. We did a lot of juicing with mango and turmeric, because he was very health conscious. But yeah, tacos, Mexican food, enchiladas, that was some of the favorites for him. But I think, for Kevin, I mean, my gosh, Kevin loves chicken. Kevin, he has this new My Heart House burger stand with the Beyond Meat burgers. But I think for Kevin, it's chicken and these kale Caesar salads that I make. That's how I met him. I mean, I met him doing a kale Caesar salad, and I didn't even know I was working for him at the time until I did the Caesar salad. And it was John Singleton at the time. He calls me and said, "Hey, Kai, I need you to come." John had this like 100-foot speedboat French yacht that he just bought. And he wanted Kevin Hart to come. This is 2013. He wanted Kevin Hart to come to his yacht. He wanted to read him the script because he wanted Kevin to be a part of this movie. And he was like, "Kai, can you come do lunch for me?" And Kevin, on my yacht, "Sure, John, what do you want?" So John wanted these steamed shellfish sofrito, and it's got mussels and clams in it. And then he wanted Chilean sea bass. And he thinks Kevin is going to eat all this, but Kevin is highly allergic to seafood. Right?
Oh, no.
So I said, "I think you should ask him." So he asked, he said, "Kevin is a gym rat. Kevin doesn't want to do anything but Caesar salad, but he doesn't want the classic Caesar dressing with the egg yolk." So at the time I did it with egg whites. Now I know, now I'm doing vegan Caesar dressings for him. But
right
at the time we did it with egg whites. So Kevin gets on the yacht and, I'm chopping up grilled chicken and beautiful organic romaine lettuce in this homemade dressing and homemade croutons with, this rustic baguette.
That sounds fabulous.
So he's sitting there eating and you can see John talking to him, but all I see is Kevin scarfing, just scarfing. And I looked, I was like, "Oh, okay.
I think he likes it."
So I get a phone call, and God bless, my friend, John Singleton, rest in peace. I get a phone call from John. He's like, "Hey, Kevin called and he wants to know, can you cater his Thanksgiving dinner?" And this is Kevin's favorite holidays, Thanksgiving.
No pressure there.
Right. And this 2013, Kevin was not as big as he is now, and John was like, "Here, I'm going to give him your phone number. He's going to call you." Just like that. That's it. He's going to call me. I mean, I don't need an assistant in between. No, he's going to call you. Don't worry about it. And he called and he's like, "Can you cater?" All because of that chicken Caesar salad. And that's how that started. And I've been his chef for 10 years now.
But see, you know what that makes me think too is like food is such a connector. I mean, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of thing it's like a language to people. And so it doesn't surprise me that would be something that would like kind of lead him to, I don't know. And then of course, the second thing I think is like, wow, that would be so great to be able to just ask somebody to whip something up for you any time of the day.
Isn't that the beauty of having a chef?
Yes.
That is. I mean, if I had a chef, I certainly would.
Yes. Well, yeah. I always think whenever I think of like people that have private chefs, when you're even saying with Michael Jackson, he does a lot of juicing. I kept thinking I'd be doing a lot of juicing too, because I wouldn't even know how to do all that stuff. But if I said to somebody, "Hey, can you make me whip up that green goddess for me?"
You'd be surprised. A lot of the folks that I've been private chef to, people think that celebrities really eat different. Like, oh, if I had a chef, I'd be having steak and lobster every night. I'd be having caviar. It is such the opposite. They are not that way. You're cooking in someone's home. They eat regular. I mean,
Right.
they sometimes they want a burger. Sometimes they want just some homemade guacamole, homemade chips. It's not like, I mean, I don't know how the royals eat, but the folks that I've worked for and these celebrities, and a lot of these times, these celebrities, they're on camera. You know,
Yeah.
they're either
Yeah.
doing movies, they're on TV, they're singing. So you got to make sure, you know, the throat doesn't have a lot of dairy. And sometimes you work with nutritionists and their trainers. You know, when I was working for Steve Harvey, I worked with his trainer and his nutritionist because Steve had 7 shows that he was doing. The Steve
Are
Harvey
you
Talk
kidding
Show. Yeah. So he had to speak constantly. So I had to pay attention to what went in his mouth, you know.
me?
And he's on TV and he's on stage from 8 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, you know, on film days. So you got to keep their energy up
Yeah.
when they're under those lights and they're on stage and it's a full audience. They take breaks and then you have nuts and you're standing in the wings with, you know, here's some almonds because you're still on a diet, because they
Yeah.
still have to maintain a look and a presence in front of a camera. Here's spa water. Here's, you know, water that takes out inflammation. Here's turmeric pills. I mean, that's you behind the scenes. But then when they eat dinner, you know, you still have to make sure there's no nightshades. There's no bloating there. It depends on the particular. Like Michael was that way. Steve Harvey was that way. Kevin's a little that way. But at home, no. You know, I think, you know, Kevin's more thing is he's not at home. I'm not on the road with him as I was with the others. So with the family, yes.
Do you ever sort of pinch yourself and say, wow, I mean, looking back on kind of how this all started, and I feel like with your background and your family, it was kind of cultivating this creativity from the beginning. So you sort of had that in you to begin with. But do you ever think back and go, wow, there's just like my life has been, it's very interesting. Like there is nothing about any of these changes that have happened that haven't come with some serendipity and a little bit of just kind of knowing someone who then refers you to the next. And I just feel like there's just such a, I don't know, it's such a through line with you of like relationships with people and how those have gotten you from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next.
You know, when you just sit down and reflect, you know, it seems like I've never had the time to just sit down and reflect until lately. I really had the time to sit down and reflect at the top of while I was doing these spices. And around that time, I had broken my knee. I had an accident and I fell. That was going to change my career forever. I mean, I think that was a sign from God. Like, it's time for you to do something else. You've done this enough. And I know I can't work for anyone else. And I told this to Kevin when I started working for him. I said, you will be the last, you know, family I work for, because in a minute, you know, I'm 55, 50, I'm going on 56, you know, retirement's coming in and, you know, you're taking your brand to that next level and your story, your cookbook, your thing to that next level. And that's what I'd like to do. That's what I'm working towards doing and trying to find, you know, the right home fit for all the things that I'd like to do. But I broke my knee. I had an accident and I broke my patella in half. So I was out of work for a long time.
Yeah.
And right then, that's when I started reflecting. But it was more of a negative reflect at that time, because it was like, why did you not stop sooner? You knew you should have stopped sooner. And you kept telling yourself, okay, I'm going to go into this end of the business now, like all my other chef friends have done. But I couldn't stop. I always feel guilty that I'm abandoning. Every client, every celebrity I've worked for has been a family. They've had kids. I've been with their kids till their kids turn 18. I have no kids of my own. So I don't know if that's just me being the love. You know, I'm cooking and I'm feeding your family. And this is love to me, you know. And I never want to abandon it, so I just stay. And whether it's hurting me, I'm okay with it. But I can't, you know, you got to get a little more selfish, you know. As I get older, you get a little more. So after I broke my knee, that's when it kicked in. I was like, hey, you gotta slow this down.
Well, and sometimes I think it takes that. It takes something outside of you that slows you down that you don't have a choice about to then get you to kind of take pause and listen to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the reflection is a beautiful one. And after I created my spices, I mean, my knee was broke. I'm still creating the spices. I'm on crutches, and I got an R&D guy, and we're still trying to do this. And I'm in pain, and we're yelling and screaming at each other, but we got it out. And I just worked through that too. But I'm proud of me. I'm really, really proud of me now because I've weathered a lot of storms. I've worked for a lot of great people, a lot of different personalities.
Right? Oh, I can imagine. Yes.
Woo, girl. Oh my gosh. And you know what? You just have to understand this is your family. This is
Right.
this is your new family. So, but people are people and you're in their home. So you're going to see everything.
Right.
And as a professional, you keep that and you do your job. You do your job and you appreciate and you feed them the best and you work your hardest and you make sure that they are well taken care of and that they are completely satisfied. And that is why I've worked for some of the best.
Yes.
When I started working for Kevin this last 5 years, I got a call from Stevie Wonder's people and P. Diddy's people. Can I come work for them? And I said, hell no. This is it. This is it. This is it show right here. Kevin is it. This is my last family. I love them. And we go into the sunset together. This is it.
What a great thing, though, to know kind of when it's time, right? When it's time to move into the next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, like I said, this is my family. And, by the beauty, Kevin assisted with the creations by Kai,
Nice.
a little bit of the seed money as a gift. And I thought that was beautiful of him. And the family believes in me and trusts me. So this is a family thing. And hey, I mean, what a better journey and family to be with.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
Thing.
I mean, you have had some wonderful relationships that you formed. This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What would you say when you look back on your life and you think of all of the different turns in the road that have kind of got you to where you are now? What would you say to women out there who might be contemplating making a change in their lives or have kind of that little whisper telling them to go a little bit deeper or look a little bit deeper into something that they might want to change? What would you say to them?
If they're in a younger than, my age group, if they're younger in my age group, I say go for it. I had no fear. I didn't know what turns were coming next. I didn't have a plan. I just kept rolling. It just kept coming. So I had no choice.
Yeah.
Just to roll. But I said, be fearless and go for it. I mean, and stay creative. It's so much creativity now. It's so many. Back then, the choices were slim, but I pushed myself through to find inspiration, to find motivation. Now it's right in front of you. But I say, go for it. Go for it and stay with people that believe in you. Do not get sidetracked. There's so many temptations out there. And it's there's haters, there's temptation, and there's people that are probably jealous. They could be jealous of, you and your foresight, but you got to stay close to, listen to your gut, listen to the universe, listen to God, and surround yourself around people that want the best for you. That's the only way you'll stay there. Now, if you're a little older like me and, you're in a job that's not fulfilling, I would always say go for it, but know when your limits are, because, starting something and doing my journey that I did at 50, that was a 24-year journey. You have family and stuff, but just get into what you love to do. If it's cooking, if it's meal prepping, if it's being a sculptress, or have fun with it. Martha Stewart was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Hello. I am so...
Oh, where is she not, though? Where is she not?
Just that gave me inspiration to keep going. I was like, yes, it certainly did. I saw that the other day, and I was like, you better go, Miss Girl. So for women of my age group, go for it. Wear your colors, stretch your stuff. Let people see you shine bright. That's what I'm doing. And I love it. And I like my demographics of, these strong women that are, whether they're empty nesters or they are divorcees, or they just are single, or they're just women that have passion, because we are women of power and passion. So I say, rock it.
Yes. Well, and when you just said that, that just made me think when we're young, we're kind of all passion, right? It's like we're ready to just kind of move with the tide, which is great, which is where I think, a lot of the steps that we take happen. But then as we get older and wiser and we have more experience behind us, that power comes into play. I mean, I feel like in my 50s, I feel much, much more strong and powerful than I ever did before. And much more certain about things and not certain in a way of feeling like I'm staying too conservative, sometimes maybe a little bit, but like just knowing enough to be like, no, this is kind of what I want, or this is no, really what I don't want. And there's such a beauty in that.
You're right. You do know what you want and don't want. You've been through the trials and tribulations, and you can pick and choose what's good for you.
Kai, this has been such a pleasure. Seriously, I love hearing about all of your adventures. I feel like you could tell me 50,000 more.
Oh, girl, I know. Over a glass of wine. I don't know.
We'll have to get together at some point. But thank you again for joining us and sharing your experience. We really appreciate your honesty and all of your insight. It's really amazing. You're teaching and helping us to follow our hearts and kind of create a life of authenticity that touches so many people, because it seems like you've just had a life of so much relationship, and that's just really wonderful.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself, and thank you too.
All right. Well, that's it for now. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Journeys Through Change podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or really wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us and leave a review if you've enjoyed this episode. And share it with a friend or on social media to spread the good word, so more women like you can find us and join in on the fun. For more information on the podcast or Day by Day book, go to livedaybyday.com.